Bum-ba-da-dum! Howdy y'all, Banjo Ben here. This course is an introduction to the mandolin. Let me tell you what all we're going to cover. We're going to cover the proper way to sit and hold the mandolin. We're going to talk about how our pick hand should operate, how our fret hand should operate. We're also going to cover how to install a strap properly and some things to watch out for. Maybe you have some questions about these types of things on the mandolin. I hope to answer those for you. Or maybe you've even been playing for a while and you never really looked and thought about the basics. And this is a great course for you too as well. So if you're watching here at banjobenclark.com as a Gold Pick member, thank you for your support of the site. You've got everything that you need here in this course. If you're watching somewhere else like Facebook or YouTube, I'd love to have you come on board and watch this over 30-minute course for how to get started properly on the mandolin, from holding the pick to fretting the frets to even putting on your strap. Let's talk about those things now. So you're starting to play the mandolin and you're sitting down, you're holding this interesting little instrument for the first time. There's some things that we need to think about. Now yours may or may not have a strap on it. We're going to talk about that in a bit, but it's quite important for you to think about your positions of your body and how you sit and how you hold the mandolin to set you up for success. We generally want to have some good posture and be sitting in a comfortable chair. And even though this is a little instrument, it really packs a punch. So we've got to approach it in a way that's going to help us play it better. Now, I generally like to hold the mandolin in between my legs rather than sitting over on a leg like I might a guitar. You're going to more than likely need to support this mandolin a little bit with your hand. If you don't, it's probably going to fall because we've got a lot of weight hanging out here on the headstock. That's one of the reasons why I do practice sitting down a lot of times with a strap on, because the leather strap will generally grab enough on my shirt to where the mandolin's pretty much in place whenever I'm sitting down and I'm not having to worry about holding the mandolin up. If we're having to hold the mandolin up a lot with our hand, it can get in the way of how we move up and down the mandolin neck. So just something to think about. While we're talking about that, the strap length is important. If you'll notice that as I sit here nice and tall with my strap, that the strap is fairly tight. If I were to stand up with the mandolin height would not drop much at all, if any. And that's another thing that we can think about is whenever we put our strap on, to put it at that height to where the mandolin's pretty much in the same position whether you're sitting down or you're standing up. If you have a loose strap while you're sitting down and you stand up and the mandolin drops several inches, it's going to mess with your angles of your hands that you've been working on whenever you're sitting down. So you might think, gosh, it's so difficult to play whenever I stand up. Well, it is a little different, but don't make it more difficult by having your mandolin in two different positions, whether you're sitting down or standing up. When it comes to actually sitting down, I like to get my foot on something that's going to raise my knee height. If we're sitting to where our knee is pointing down and our leg is sloping down, then that's just going to cause the mandolin to maybe want to fall forward a little bit. If we're too far up like this, same type of thing. So I like to just have good posture, everything kind of parallel to the ground, my shoulders back a little bit. I'm not looking over the front of the mandolin to play. We're going to be tempted to do that when we first start playing. But there are actually these little side dots on the mandolin neck that's going to give us some position markers so that we don't have to look all the way over the neck. What else can we talk about as we hold the mandolin? We'll dive into some more details as we talk specifically about our pick hand and our fret hand. But the mandolin should just sit comfortably in your lap. If you find that something's getting tired after you sit down and start playing for just a little bit, then you've probably got some kind of tension working. So I like to just think through all my muscle groups from my cheeks and my forehead all the way down. Am I clenching something? Am I holding a shoulder up? Either one. Am I flexing my shoulders and my traps? Am I flexing an arm as I'm trying to play? Because those types of things will cause problems. Not only can it actually hurt you over time, create some issues, but it's not going to give you the looseness that you need to be able to play mandolin fast and have some good tone. So we're coming to the mandolin very relaxed. we're sitting, mandolin feels great. We're not having to constantly hold it up. We get a strap to maybe help us hold it up there, where we're having to do limited support with our fret hand, and everything feels great. So now we're going to jump into what we're doing with this pick hand, how to hold the pick, and how to strike the mandolin strings. Let's talk about the pick hand, and I may refer to it as my right hand because I'm a righty. So you lefties, forgive me out there. I've got lots of material here on the site that really dive deeply into how to hold the pick, the different ways that we strike the string and what we're going after. So I'm just going to give you an overview here to get you going, but then you want to watch my pick hand foundations course. That's in the mandolin section. I also have a course in the guitar section called Pick Hand Study that's going to have lots of parallel information that applies to the mandolin. So jump over or just search for that pick hand study and watch that. Even though it's on guitar, it's going to apply here for the most part. A couple of things about the mandolin that we need to think about is that our arm is just going to lightly come over the top of the mandolin, and we need to think about the angle here. We don't want to have our arm so far down on the mandolin that we're approaching it from a low position from the tailpiece. We also don't want to have our mandolin neck so far up in the air that we're coming down from the top. So it's more of kind of like a 30-degree angle here, and then that is going, whatever angle we have going here, that's going to provide the angle of the pick to the string too. So if you think about a 30-degree angle from here to the tailpiece, then that pick angle is there too, okay? As far as what's going to contact the mandolin, there are lots of different theories here and lots of different approaches. And there are great players that do all kinds of different approaches. We're all made a little bit different, so you're going to find what works best for you. Just remember there is a cardinal rule, and that's that we want to avoid tension at all costs. So if you're going to be an anchor player, some people do that where they post a finger on the mandolin. If that's you, that's fine. Just be mindful. Is it causing tension? Is it freezing up my hand? If you're going to be a closed hand player, which is what I've kind of landed on over the years, and I've even gone back and forth over the years, even depending on what type of thing I'm playing. Main thing being, I'm not clenching a fist and causing tension in here that's going to freeze up my playing. I'm going to be very loose. So as we hold the pick, we hold it loosely. We grab the pick, just like we would grab anything else of this shape. Imagine somebody handing you a business card and you just reaching out and grabbing it. That's how you're going to grab the pick. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do it like this. We're not going to do two fingers like this. We're going to just close our hand and put the pick right in there. And the point of that pick is going to bisect the angle between our index and our thumb. Our wrist is going to come out just a little bit. We're not going to have a straight wrist, because that would put our pick above the strings. So we're going to have to break our wrist a little bit. And we're going to have not only an up and down motion with our pick, we're also going to have a bit of a twist motion too. We want to avoid at all costs a pecking motion. So if you find yourself starting to play it like that and your hand is bouncing, we're doing something wrong. We need to break that wrist more. And the motion that we're going to go for is like if you were going to put out a match that's lit. You grab that match and you're going to shake that match and put it out. That's the same motion that we're going to play our mandolin with. Now, as far as anchoring on the mandolin, like I said, some people do plant a finger or two fingers, one or the other. If you have a pick guard on your mandolin like this one, it makes it a little bit difficult because if you plant, it's going to put your pick way above the strings. Okay. Now, if this was missing, as a lot of mandolins do, then you would have more room to plant. But just keep this in mind that if you take a planting approach on the mandolin and yours doesn't have a pick guard, if you go to play somebody else's mandolin and they have a pick guard and you go to plant and you're used to that, it's going to be very difficult to play. So that's why I encourage you to maybe steer clear of the planting for now, or if you do, just make it be more of a brush, and instead just do kind of a light fist, okay? and I'm getting a little bit of contact here on the top of the bridge, top of the saddle, on this fatty part of my hand. But we also don't want to press hard and mount there, because we can greatly affect the tone and volume of the mandolin, because our tone energy is going from the strings through the saddle down into the bridge to the top of the mandolin. So if we put a lot of meat on that, we're going to interrupt the conductivity of the tone as it travels through. You can actually hear the difference if you were to experiment with that. But it's okay to brush it a little bit to know where we're at. The other side of my hand can touch the strings on the other side of the saddle a little bit. Okay, but you'll get more comfortable with that as you go. Whenever I'm playing rhythm, like a chop, I'm not touching anything. There's no contact point. But when you go to play, it is a bit difficult to remain free of the mandolin and know where you're at on the strings. So if I'm going to go back and forth between playing rhythm and playing some lead, I'm going to come in a little closer to the mandolin. So here I am chopping, then I'm going to play. Don't be afraid to try different things with your pick hand and kind of figure out how your anatomy is going to work best. But remember the cardinal rule: avoid tension. And what can happen is whenever we're working on this, tension starts to build up here again, or we start to clench our jaw, or gnaw on our tongue, or whatever it may be. We just want to, as we get started and even beyond, we want to constantly be auditing our tension and what we're looking to do. Now, at first, you're going to be looking down at your strings to see which strings that you're hitting. That will subside after a while. Your attention will be able to be focused toward the neck, which is what we're going to talk about next. But for the first little bit, you're going to be wanting to look at your strings to see where you're playing. Just know that we want to get our eyes off of that as soon as we can. Let our brain figure out where those strings are on their own. All right, so that's a pretty good overview of the pick hand. Remember that I have lots of other resources on the site where we dive into it even more, getting specifically into how to hold the pick, the string strike angle, tone, all that good stuff. Now let's turn our attention to the fret hand, or the left hand for most of you. Let's talk now about our fret hand. Let's talk position first. Well, actually, before that, let's talk about what all's going on this mandolin, because I remember one of the first things I thought about the